Okay. Okay.
Next on Time for Living, get ready to log on for a trip into cyberspace. Millions of older Americans do it every day.
You'll go bicycling with Barbara Siegert and see why she's getting this week's second effort salute.
And we'll be taking you to beautiful northern New Mexico in today's Traveling Around segment. All this and more next on Time for Living.
I'm Janet Jagalian.
And I'm Rex Traylor. Welcome to Time for Living.
This is the weekly show for people who feel the prime of life is still ahead of them.
And there's no doubt about it. Older Americans are more active today, physically and mentally.
And every week, Time for Living brings you enlightening and informative stories about growing older, something everyone does no matter what their age.
Well, this is the computer age. I guess everybody knows that, and this is the time where everybody is logging on, and older folks are definitely among them, no matter what your age. Developing the skills to operate these machines takes a lot of doing, but as Barbara Brilliant found out, a lot of people are taking the steps to become cyber seniors.
So if you click on the mouse, you will get the cursor up into Eric there.
Learning is a lifelong journey, and today Beatrice and Irving Kaplan are taking a trip into cyberspace.
I want to say soon, S-O-O-N.
With computers everywhere, they didn't want to be left out of the loop, and so they joined the free computer program at the Newton Senior Center.
I felt that I wasn't keeping pace with today's society. And I felt it would be more interesting for me at this time of my life to keep pace, to be aware of what's going on and what younger people are doing and what they're using, what tools they're using.
If I could use the computer, then I feel I'm more or less up to par with the other people in the world.
Beatrice, a retired teacher, and Irving, a retired lawyer, have joined the Seniors Teaching Seniors program. After just a few weeks of lessons, they're able to do simple tasks on the computer. Stuart Grover is the founder of this innovative program and is a computer tutor himself. He says that anyone, no matter their age, can learn these skills.
They're not just for scientists and rocket engineers, they're for everyday people. And I can't think of any generation that could get more out of computers than the older generation.
Stuart was upset to learn that there were very few programs available for beginners. He went to the Boston Computer Society and the city of Newton, Massachusetts, asking for free space, free computers, and volunteer teachers. The answers were yes, yes, and yes.
Basics. And by basics, I mean, what is that thing you're sitting in front of? You know, what's a monitor? What's a keyboard? What's a computer?
Stuart tailored his program to seniors by scheduling small classes, only during the daytime, and chose instructors who have lots of patience. Students are taught everything from the basics to how to navigate the internet. The program has seniors exploring new territory, and they love it.
You are giving somebody, in a sense, a new life, because you've opened a door that wasn't open before. They want that, and they're very happy to go out after this and know a little bit, anyway, of what's being talked about in the newspapers, and what their grandchildren are talking about. When they hear on the television, everywhere, computer, computer, computer. Now they know what's being talked about, and they get great satisfaction out of that. We've had 650 people apply for it in less than 3 years, all older people. So,
Is there a waiting list?
there's a waiting list of about 120.
The overwhelming success of the computer course at the Newton Senior Center is not surprising. More than half of the people over 50 are really interested in learning about this technology. And for those who are already computer literate, did you know that they spend more time at their keyboard than any other member of the household? So you've been bitten by the bug and you want to buy your first computer. What are the right questions to ask?
The number one thing is, what do they want to accomplish with the PC? What type of software packages they want to run? Do they want to do online services, encyclopedias, word processing, spreadsheets? The second most important thing that we find is what's going to be physically best for them. And I kind of lean towards the monitor end of it. If they're going to spend a couple hours, then they might want to look at a larger monitor format, which will reduce the eye fatigue and strain on their eyes. The third thing is also the physical end of the input, the mouse, the keyboard. Some of the items that come with the particular computers, they're smaller OEM type items. We offer a wide range of larger trackballs, larger keyboards that make it easier for them to input.
Mike Hogan is the sales manager for CompUSA in Framingham, Massachusetts. He is seeing an increase in the numbers of older customers.
The senior community are finding that computers and PCs are opening up a whole new world to them and the whole world to them. There's no place they can't travel to right now and actually talk to somebody via the online services, the internet, the World Wide Web.
Bob Bowers is one of those seniors who spends 3 to 4 hours a day on the internet. This retired engineer, genealogist, and volunteer finance committee member for his senior housing has many uses for his computer.
Genealogy, of course. Keep track of my portfolio, write letters. I'm very active in the Brookhaven community, the retirement community here, and produce all sorts of documents relative to my position.
Using the internet, Bob has made some interesting discoveries.
I found one of my distant nephews who signed on in Texas and discovered by looking at my profile on America Online, hey, Uncle Bob.
There can be danger lurking on the internet. Bob cautions not to put your credit card on the net and to use common sense if you input your name and address. Remember, this is information that thousands of people can get. Bob is generous with his expertise. He helped a 92-year-old neighbor use email so that she could send letters to her grandchildren. Using the internet and email is fascinating, but there is a downside.
There's a concern that I might be addicted.
What happened was,
If, like Irving and Beatrice, you're new to the computer, or like Bob, a veteran techie, there's one thing for sure. You're going to have fun. Irving's lessons have left him with only one question about computers.
How do they work?
I'm Barbara Brilliant. Time for living.
I'm joined now in studio by Betsy Campbell. Betsy is a computer expert who directed the People Over 60 online project. She's also written a book which will be published later this year called The New Connections. And in just a few minutes, we'll be asking you to join on our conversation. We'll take your calls to answer any questions that you might have. Our number is 617-244-3344. So please pick up the phone and give us a call if you have any questions for Betsy Campbell about computers or about being online. We'd love to hear from you. And Betsy, I can't tell you how happy I am that you're here.
It's a pleasure.
And that we'll have an opportunity now to perhaps point out to people that there's nothing to fear but the fear itself, as they say, of computers. But let me also ask whether or not you feel the statistics that I've heard that over 65 million Americans now are over the age of 50, and of that number, about 10 million have computers and are involved in some kind of interactive media. Are you impressed with that amount of people using them?
Absolutely. I think it really does indicate that a large number of people have already discovered the value of computers in their daily lives. And it also holds the promise for a larger number even yet to soon discover what the online world can bring to them.
If they're using this computer, is it the real in-depth type of use of it, or is it word processing, or just what is it basically used for by seniors?
Well, it really runs the gamut. It's like everything else. You go to it with your own interest base. So people who are very interested in recipes, for example, might be collecting recipes online and logging them some way on their computer. Other people are financial people, and they like to really play with numbers. And so your own interests do guide what you do.
What about people who also perhaps like to travel? Are they able to explore possibilities of trips as well with the use of their computer?
Actually, that's one of the most exciting things that you can do, because you can travel virtually as well. By just a click of a mouse, you can find yourself in a different country, exploring different customs and speaking with people from all over the world. And certainly you can book your own trips. I understand you folks just came back from one.
Yes,
so
we did.
That'll be exciting to hear about in future shows.
All right, now what about the intimidation factor? I made reference to that because I think a lot of people feel that unless you've grown up in this kind of technology, as it being second nature to you, that you're less likely to feel comfortable approaching a computer. But is that a problem that people should fear or be concerned about?
Well, I think everyone, when they're trying something new, everyone tends to be a little bit frightened of it at first. But once you get your feet wet, you soon find that it's really a very friendly environment. And you can certainly find other folks who are very supportive and helpful as you figure out what to do next.
Now, the best way, I assume, is to have someone in your family who can give you pointers. And I think a lot of seniors perhaps do learn in that way. Is that the most popular way of learning, or do people go and take classes?
Well, both happens. One of the most exciting things that I found was that most seniors are getting online because they have an adult child who's wired in one way or another, or a grandchild even. There are wonderful stories about how people are using the internet to have round-robin bedtime stories with their grandchildren and keeping in touch despite the miles. And this really is a wonderful scaffolding situation where people can really rely on people that they know and trust and have a history with. And that helps them, of course, really take that plunge into cyberspace or into using a new tool.
We have a call from Ruth online. Go ahead, you're on Time for Living, Ruth.
Hello, I was interested in knowing if there was a course closer to Stowe than Newton.
Is there a course closer to Stowe, Massachusetts, than the course in Newton that they pointed out in the piece by Barbara Brilliant?
There might well be. I'm not entirely familiar with every course in every nook and cranny, but you can certainly check adult education facilities nearby and community colleges. There's some wonderful activities where seniors are coaching other seniors at a number of these institutions.
Ruth, I would suggest that you perhaps contact your senior center in the Stowe area and find out if they do have information about programs that would be available to you. But I'm glad that you're not intimidated and that you're ready to move forward and get involved with computers. Thank you for your call. The other way of taking courses, how many classes are there locally, say in the Metro Boston area right now?
Oh, there are numerous ones, and they're springing up all the time. Some of them actually do have a senior focus where they're taught by and for seniors. Other ones are more general, and it's really up to your own schedule and your location where you might want to go and try on some of these new technologies.
Absolutely. Willie from Brockton, you're next on Time for Living.
Yes, I would like to know, is there any computer thing in Brockton area that's for over 50 years old? And if there is, I would like to know where is they located at?
Well, again, I think perhaps, Willie, that you should contact the Brockton senior citizens and inquire of them as to what might be there. But you've raised the other question, and that is what the cost might be. And maybe we can get some information from you on that, Betsy.
Well, there are a number of free courses available to you, and so you do want to look at what is out there for a minimal price. You can also enroll in some very formal courses, which of course carry a fee along with them.
There is also a senior net. From what I understand now, is this a contact group or people who contact one another through the computer, or is this an organization where people learn computers?
Largely, it's a learning organization, and they do have learning centers throughout the country. They do a lot of computer teaching, so the basic skills of how to use a computer, and they are also branching into the online world. So they're a wonderful first step as far as figuring out what to do with computers.
Roland from Hampton, you're next on Time for Living.
Yeah. I'd like to, when you go online, you've got to be very cautious of the numbers they give you. They gave us what we thought was a local number for us to call, and we used it. I know they were charging $2.95 per hour, but we were using it every night. And come find out that local number was an internet number which transferred us to Manchester and called Portsmouth. And our phone bill for that month was $700.
Oh my goodness. How can they be cautioned about running into that kind of difficulty?
Definitely be very careful about that. As more and more internet service providers come out these days, you're going to find more and more local places are covered. So when you're asking your internet service provider exactly how you're going to be connected, definitely clarify that point. That's becoming less and less common as you find more and more local hubs, but it's still worth the question as you're first setting yourself up.
Not only that cost, but also just knowing what's involved before you get involved in the internet as well. And some of the dangers that were pointed out during the Barbara Brilliant segment about giving your address and perhaps any credit card numbers that could be very damaging to you in one way or another.
Well, you do want to keep control of your own information, and so you do not, just as you would not want to in the real world pepper your phone number about, you don't want to do that in cyberspace either. But it is in your control, so you will choose the appropriate times to use your credit card or to give your personal information.
Well, when Time for Living continues, we'll be taking your calls and continuing with giving you information. Betsy Campbell is our guest, and we'll be right back. Right. Okay. Okay. welcome back to Time for Living. We're talking about computers, and our guest is Betsy Campbell, who's a computer specialist and expert. She's also an author of a book entitled New Connections. Could you tell us a little bit about the book?
Sure. The book also has a tentative title. We're still in our last revisions, and so it might also be called Bits of Wisdom. So keep your ears open for either one.
That sounds fascinating.
The fun of publishing.
What is it that you're trying to accomplish with the book?
Well, I think that one of the things that is really important as people discover the internet is helping them figure out what's in it for them, what really makes it useful. And what we do in the book is we really do look at the real people stories that are out there of people over 60 who are using the internet on a regular basis and finding out what it is they do. And in the process of telling their stories, hopefully other people will see what might be in it for them as well.
There are many people who say that being older might mean that you might be homebound. It might mean that you're perhaps living a little bit lonely kind of a life. But with a computer, can't this all change? Can't you be a part of a growing, larger community?
Absolutely. And I think that community appeal is really part of the attraction to computers, and in many cases. I have many stories of people who do use the internet as a means to stay in touch with family, with friends, and to make new friends. So it's not the same, obviously, as personal contact, but it certainly does keep you in touch when you can't actually be there.
Isn't it also going to be part of our everyday existence in the near future because of email and how quickly you can get communication from one place to another?
That's correct. I mean, email is a real part of the way our world works today, and a number of seniors have really embraced this. As I mentioned earlier, whether it's talking to their grandchildren or talking to their other family members, in some cases people are reaching out to health specialists to talk via email about certain things. Other people are sharing their wisdom and teaching some courses using the net.
And I also know that many people feel that it's the best way to keep in touch with family all over the country. They can get online and start communicating with people not only from the East Coast, but the West Coast and South and North. So it's really an exciting potential for them.
It really is. I have one fellow in his 70s that told me email changed his life. And he's been able to stay in touch with his family that are now scattered all over the globe. And he really does feel like he's a part of their lives every day. They're in touch.
We're talking about computers, and our number, if you'd like to ask a question of our guest, is 244-3344. That's area code 617-244-3344. Betsy, what about people who can't afford to buy a computer, people who can't afford to take a course? Are they going to be frozen out of this possibility of getting into this new technology, or is there an option for them?
There are definitely options. Certainly a number of libraries these days are wired, and a number of cyber cafes are forming too. We're for very
cyber cafes?
Yes. So public places where you can go and for a cup of coffee fee and a few more dollars, you're able to start to explore what the internet can offer you. And every day you're starting to see more and more places with more of an altruistic feel for how to make sure that the internet is available to everyone.
Now, if they go to the library, and are they limited as to how much time they can spend on the computer? I would assume that, it's not yours to use for the day.
Most places tend to have a sign-up policy, and so you do have an hour to 2 hours or something like that as your slot for using the machinery. But that does vary by location, so certainly call and find out what's available to you in your area.
All right, let's try to once again to take a look at the best way for an individual to become involved with a computer. Tell us whether it's just going to a senior center and asking about it, or whether it is picking up a phone and making a few phone calls to specialized computer services, or what?
Well, there are a number of options, obviously, but some of the preferred methods are talking to friends and family that are already using computers at work, at school, or just in their personal lives. And you can start to collect their stories and find out what has driven them to use the computer and how they've gotten their current technical setup that they have. And by learning from what they've done, you then can start to piece together what makes sense for your own situation.
Is there software that's been put together specifically for seniors that would be easy for them to use?
Yes.
Or is this part of the future?
This is certainly something that's coming, and with the book that is coming out for Holiday 96, there's internet software in the back of that should make it very easy to get to the website that is related to the book. And that website actually will be designed with the interface and informational preferences of older adults.
Okay, Jerry from Quincy, you're on Time for Living.
Hello, how are you guys doing?
Very well, thank you.
My internet, when I use the internet, I have and I get on it, they always call me a poop head on it.
Well, what can I say? I'm sure that people run into all kinds of problems when they are involved with the internet, but the cautions that you've already pointed out are that just be very careful about revealing a great deal of your own personal life.
That's correct. I think that one of the things that email does is it allows people to respond very quickly. And sometimes people can say things in the heat of the moment that they'd rather they hadn't later on. So another tip to the wise when you are using email and other communications components of the internet is to reflect a little before you do say things.
And you can obviously say that computers have changed people's lives.
Oh, without a doubt. And they're going to continue to do so as they become more and more a part of our everyday lives.
In a very positive way. Betsy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And good luck with the book.
Thanks.
Okay. We've been talking about computers and hope that you've enjoyed some of the information that's come your way, that you won't feel intimidated by trying this new avenue of technology. And among the things you'll find on the internet and on the various online services are a wide variety of support groups. They're of tremendous help to many people, but often nothing matches the effectiveness of face-to-face communications, and particularly when you come to serious topics such as breast cancer. Studies show that African American women are more likely to die from breast cancer than white women. Tragically, that's because they are often diagnosed too late to fight the disease. In today's Newsbreak segment, Time for Living's Carolyn Murdoch tells us about one Arkansas program that's teaching African American women the importance of early detection.
It's frightening, but let me tell you, it's life after having cancer. You can survive. It's really up to you.
Words from a survivor, trying to prevent others from waiting till it's too late.
And so what we've got to do when we go to the doctor, let's be very specific about what we want. Tell the doctor everything that you want him to check on you, because this body belongs to you.
These women are from the Witness Project. All have survived breast or cervical cancer. In churches and community centers around Arkansas, they preach the news to other African American women that cancer doesn't have to mean a death sentence.
It's something that I feel need to be gotten out to the African American women, because most of us are nurturers and we see about everybody but ourselves. It helps to do your self-breast examination. It helps to go to the doctor. It definitely helps to get a mammogram.
Have a woman stand up and say, I'm a 10-year survivor of breast cancer, truly speaks from the heart. It provides a very credible person and messenger, and the message and the words that they speak are considered in a different light.
And whatever you do to one, you must do to two if you want to keep two. Okay?
With humor and sensitivity, the volunteers tell their stories and teach the importance of early detection.
And don't take those fingers off. Just kind of rotate.
They demonstrate how to do a self-breast examination to women of all ages. The program seems to be working.
When we first started witnessing, people would not come out. Anytime you say the word cancer, they would turn you off. Now we're having more programs. People call and ask us to have programs for them, and women are beginning to open up and talk.
Officials with the Witness Project say the number of African American women in Arkansas being screened for breast cancer and cervical cancer is increasing. I'm Carolyn Murdoch. Time for Living.
Of course, it goes without saying that all women should learn how to examine themselves, and if you don't know how, you should ask your doctor. There's still much more ahead on Time for Living. Up next, we'll introduce you to a New Hampshire woman who has peddled her way all over America. She's getting this week's Second Effort Salute, and you won't want to miss it.
10987654 You know, it's so important to stay active in your older years. Everybody should really pay attention to that.
So many people say that as soon as you stop being active, be it mentally or physically, that it's the end, that you're done for. Well, people we profile in our second effort salutes have one thing in common, and that's that they all stay active.
Well, Barbara Siegert is definitely active, pedaling her way across America. Reporter Davita Wright introduces us to this 64-year-old New Hampshire woman who gets this week's second effort salute.
If someone had told me 30, 40 years ago, when you retire, you're going to ride across the U.S., I would have said, ha.
On the highway of life, Barbara Siegert has found the bicycle to be her vehicle of choice. It's carried her far away from her home in Durham, New Hampshire, to new experiences and friendships around the country.
So I think it was the beauty of the country, meeting the people, that really got us hooked on a wonderful lifestyle, you might say.
Barbara started serious bicycling at the age of 40. Now at 64, she and her husband Richard have crossed the country 5 times.
I had some cabin fever. I just wanted to get out, get some fresh air and a little exercise. So I started riding around my neighborhood and then got my husband interested in these little rides around the neighborhood.
Before you know it, Barbara talked her husband into riding from San Diego to their home, then in Connecticut. That was in 1986. It took 67 days. They rode through wind and rain and suffered many aching muscles, but never stopped.
There must be something about the human mind that doesn't want to remember the bad parts. Because the next morning, yesterday is history. You're ready to go again. It's this great spirit of adventure that gets into you, that you just want to see what's down the road and around the next bend.
2 years later, the couple took their second trek, 47 days from Canada to Mexico, then from Maine to Florida, then from Seattle to New Hampshire, and then along the Mississippi River.
What most impressed me was the Southwest and the West Coast, always having the Pacific Ocean within view, and stopping every few minutes to look at beautiful coves and canyons and listen to the seals barking.
Barbara kept a diary of their adventure, and after much prodding, she wrote a book called Bicycle Across America.
I would like to encourage anyone who's ever thought of doing a trip of 3 days or 3 months to look at this book, because it gives every bit of equipment you would need for a trip of any duration.
In the book, Barbara also tells about the many interesting people they've met, the routes they traveled, and she gives advice on how to get started. But most of all, Barbara hopes it will inspire other people to take an adventure.
If there's some adventure or some challenge that you've always dreamed about doing, make up your mind to do it.
Barbara and Richard have plans next to bike the Oregon Trail, but Richard has recently been diagnosed with cancer of the esophagus, so the ride is on hold. In the meantime, you can probably catch either of them pedaling along around New England, just enjoying the ride. Davita Wright, Time for Living.
What a great way to see the country.
And what an extraordinary couple for sure. You know, Barbara and her husband are quite a team. She happens to be the mechanic, and he's the navigator.
As a matter of fact, for accommodations, sometimes they would stay at motels and other times they just pitch a tent.
Well, if you know of someone like Barbara who's worthy of our second effort salute, please let us know. Just write to us here at Time for Living's second effort salute in care of Time for Living, P.O. Box 1698, Framingham, Massachusetts 01701. And you can also call our voicemail at 1-800-232-7213.
Well, next on Time for Living, we're going to head for the beautiful Southwest and the picturesque cities of Santa Fe and Taos, New Mexico. Don't go away. We'll be right back. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1-800-232-7213. 1- Americans are packing their bags and heading out of town.
And more older folks are traveling to all corners of the globe. We certainly saw plenty of them last week when we cruised to Bermuda aboard the Royal Majesty.
That's right, and we'll be showing you in future shows some of the segments that we took on board the Royal Majesty and in Bermuda, so we're looking forward to that. But today, we're staying on dry land, very dry land as a matter of fact. We'll off to the cities of Santa Fe and Taos, New Mexico, today's traveling around destination. Northern New Mexico, its mountains soaring 13,000 feet, its valleys gouged by volcanic violence millions of years ago, brilliant turquoise skies, and Native Americans whose ancestors came here thousands of years ago. Santa Fe, once a mud wall village, is now a chic and expensive adobe city of 50,000.
When New Mexico became a state in 1812,
Begin the day with a walking tour that starts in the center of town at historic Santa Fe Plaza. Right across the street, you'll find Pueblo Indians selling their wares in front of the oldest government building in the nation. If you listen to your guide, you'll know what to avoid.
if you buy over here in front of like Woolworths or someplace like that, you may be buying genuine, handmade American Indian artifacts from Korea or Taiwan.
Head south for a lesson in New Mexican history. It's just 20 minutes outside of town, but a trip to Rancho de las Golondrinas is like going back to the 1700s when New Mexico was part of Spain's New World Empire. And the last northern stop along the Great Highway from Mexico today is a place where visitors can come and get a glimpse of Hispanic life as it was lived 200 years ago. Midway between Santa Fe and Taos is canyon country and ruins of Indian communities which date back to prehistoric times. They're the oldest villages, the first high-rise condos. Their residents, descendants of Ice Age man living close to nature for hundreds of years. Of the 24 pueblos and historic ruins in New Mexico, you'll find many of them within driving distance of Santa Fe and Taos. Each pueblo is different, with its own language, traditions, and crafts. The most impressive pueblo is Taos, where you'll find the strongest sense of history. Here, close to 2,000 Native Americans are living without electricity or running water, pretty much as their ancestors did about 400 years ago when the Spaniards came here thinking they'd found one of the 7 lost cities of gold.
Because it's so stark, it just really kind of shocks you.
It's just so amazing that people still can live this way and be quite happy.
Most days you won't find much going on. A few women baking bread, souvenir shops selling handmade crafts. Taos, New Mexico, a dusty old frontier town of 4,000 people.
It was real laid back. Not a lot going on. You can just kind of relax and have a good time.
Santa Fe earned its reputation as an artist's haven in the 1890s when Eastern artists came here seeking a cure for tuberculosis. Since then, it's attracted famous artists and artisans from around the world, like Navajo painter-sculptor R.C. Gorman, one of the world's most successful artists.
I came here 22 years ago at night, and then in the morning I woke up, and it was so beautiful to me. I came as a tourist, and then I just decided to stay.
Gorman's home, overlooking Taos Valley, is filled with famous paintings and very often a lot of celebrities.
People like Elizabeth Taylor has come to this home, Cloris Leachman, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm not somebody who just says, so what? No, I'm impressed.
You'll be impressed by the 80 or more galleries catering to every taste. Unfortunately, competition does not mean lower prices.
You just wish you had all the money to buy it all, because it's super.
Originals can run into the thousands, or you can buy signed reproductions for $50. A lot of folks are surprised to learn that Santa Fe is one of the country's premier ski areas. But keep in mind that 10 to 12,000 feet, you might suffer fatigue or altitude sickness.
strong headaches and some nausea, vomiting, and even some fainting. We suggest people get a good night's sleep before they come, eat a good breakfast, and be prepared to work out.
Even in winter, northern New Mexico is a nature lover's dream, with plenty of opportunities for horseback riding, bird watching, ballooning, weather permitting, or rafting the Rio Grande.
The Taos Box is one of the most exciting one-day runs you can do in the United States. It's Class 4 and Class 5 rapids.
End the day at Rio Grande Gorge. It's a 650-foot drop where you can see just how grand this river was before it was dammed. Northern New Mexico and the towns of Santa Fe and Taos, today's traveling around destination.
Welcome back. You know, in past shows, we've talked about the importance of planning for the future, especially if you're retiring.
And while there are a multitude of ways to save for the retirement, making sure your savings and your possessions are protected is very important. Now, just as important is the best way to do that saving and find out about trusts. And while in the past we've told you what types of trusts are available, this week, Time for Living, Steve Burke is our financial expert, and he's going to tell us about selecting the right team to put together that trust.
As most of you realize, it's impossible to cover any subject in detail, whether it's about trust or mutual funds or any matter related to the world of finance. For that reason, we try to cover a subject by touching the high spots with the thought that it will help you to find areas of interest to you, which you can investigate more thoroughly with your financial advisor, insurance person, accountant, or attorney. Speaking of attorneys, it's important for you to know that trusts need to be drawn by a very competent lawyer, preferably one who specializes in trust work. Since a trust can be a very personal instrument, you want to have the legal language stating exactly what you want accomplished. What follows then are some points for you to consider and some terms to be aware of should you want to discuss a trust with an attorney. Beware, too, that I'm not a member of the bar, so make sure you check thoroughly those subjects I discuss. Your trust attorney can be helpful in suggesting strategies which can make a trust even more useful for you. Like me, your financial advisor may well have a number of years of experience, but in my judgment, you are well advised to have a team approach should you decide on a trust. The team should be comprised of your advisor, your accountant, and a good trust attorney. This should ensure that there aren't any unpleasant surprises for your trustees or you in the future. The very first thing to do in a financial planning or estate planning trust work is to define as specifically as you can what you want to accomplish. This can be of great help to your technical assistants. It assists them to assist you. Remember Alice in Wonderland's counsel when looking for directions. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. A trust is a very important legal instrument. It should be treated respectfully. However, you need not be afraid of discussing a trust or entering into one, as long as you do your homework and there is good help out there. There are a lot of trusts out there. There are trusts for children and trusts for incompetent people, trusts for businesses, such as pension trust or profit-sharing trusts, and charitable trusts. You can have a joint trust, marital deduction trust, and trust to hold certain assets, but not other assets that you may control. Generally, remember there are exceptions to almost everything. Trusts have certain time limits when the trust involves people. However, in the case of charitable trusts or non-person beneficiaries, the trust can go on for an indefinite time. For example, Harvard University is still, over 300 years later, the beneficiary of a gift from John Harvard. For families, there are more limited conditions. A trust must vest, be paid out, not later than 21 years after someone who was born at the creation of the trust. To that time period is added a gestation period to protect a child conceived but not born. Put another way, a trust for families cannot go in perpetuity. Characteristics common to all trusts are a creator, a trustee or trustees, a beneficiary or beneficiaries, property, which are assets, and the terms of the trust. Anything which can be owned can be put in a trust, although this is not necessarily a good move. Trustees or a trustee are very important to the trust's success. For that reason, it's very critical to pick your trustees carefully, and possibly successor trustees, should your original trustees be unable to serve. Once your assets exceed $100,000, you should begin to examine the merits of a trust. Certainly when one gets in a more affluent position, serious consideration should be given a trust, or trusts. And finally, if you have a certain responsibility such as a disabled family member, yourself, or some situation which calls for conservative management of your funds, a trust may well be the answer. And there can be estate and income tax benefits resulting from the move. But don't create a trust simply to avoid taxes. It may be more of a problem than a solution. I'm Steve Burke, Time for Living.
Nice job, Steve. That was Steve Burke of Coordinated Financial Planning. Now, if you have any questions for Steve, you can write to him at Time for Living, Post Office Box 1698, Framingham, Massachusetts 01701 9998. Or the phone number is 1-800-232-7213.
You know, we love hearing from you. And up next on Time for Living, we're going to dip into our mailbag, so please stick around.
it's time for Living's mailbag. And Janet, since our lead story was about computers, it seems kind of fitting that the first letter in our mailbag came to us via email.
That's right, Rex. In fact, Andrea Cullen of Hooksett, New Hampshire contacted us via America Online and wrote, I really enjoy Time for Living with Rex Traylor and Janet Jagalian. I wish my mother and her friend could get cable so they could see this show as well. They're 80-something and think cable is bad. Is there some way to advertise such helpful shows at bingo places and retirement housing? I believe there are many out there who do not have cable and who are not receiving this helpful and encouraging information. Also, many out there don't want to admit they need this information.
Well, Time for Living has been getting in touch with Council on Aging offices all over New England, and many of the councils have written about us in their monthly newsletters, and for that, we thank them.
We want everybody over the age of 50 to watch Time for Living, so please tell your friends about us, or for those people without cable, maybe that's a good reason to invite them over to watch the show.
Now, our address is Time for Living. Mailbag is Post Office Box 1698, Framingham, Massachusetts, 01701. So please write and tell us what's on your mind.
And here's some exciting news about someone we first told you about a few weeks ago. You may remember Laura White. She's the strength training instructor with the Boston YWCAs. Well, this past weekend, Laura won 5 gold and 1 silver medals at the Greater Boston Senior Games. Laura had a personal best 8.5-minute mile, and she's 65 years old. Congratulations, Laura, and congratulations to everyone who took part in the Senior Games. We'll be doing a story about the Massachusetts Senior Games in just a few weeks.
Well, that's very good. Congratulations to Barbara. That's wonderful.
That's for sure.
And speaking of the future, by the way, we'll be taking a sneak peek at upcoming shows. Don't go away. Thanks for joining us once again on Time for Living.
We hope you liked what you've seen, and we hope you'll join us for future shows.
Among the topics we're working on is an important show on nutrition. Many older people don't eat right. We'll tell you how you can keep yourself on a healthy diet.
We'll also tell you about an exciting program helping older immigrants adjust to a new life here in the United States.
And of course, no show would be complete without our traveling around, health, finance, and more segments. We'll also be checking our mailbag for more of your letters.
As we leave you now, we give you one more look at picturesque New Mexico. So until next week, it's Time for Living.
They put all this water under here. Nobody takes their water away.